Hello everyone. So today we are covering chapter 1 of the basics of geometry, and it is lesson 1.1, which is points, lines, and planes. Obviously I put my name down here, Mr. Yurko. You guys will put your own, and then these are the notes, okay? So today we're going to be talking about points, lines, and planes, so just go ahead and put a point on top of points. Go ahead and put a line underneath the lines and a plane next to planes. Okay, that plane was actually pretty terrible, but moving on. All right, so next page would be the warm-up. We do not have a warm-up for this lesson, so congratulations. We don't have one. And now we have definitions. So over on the left side, we have the words. We have point, line, and plane. The meaning. So the meaning of a point has no dimension, and it's a dot, and it represents a point. Okay, and a dot is simply just a dot, and we will label this dot A. Okay, so how we write that in notation is point A. Okay, it's just a dot, very simple, very basic. Take that away. Okay. Now the next one is a line. A line has one dimension and is represented by a line with two arrowheads, but it extends without end. So that would look like this. We'll have it going through 2 points. So let's label these A. Excuse me. Let me actually zoom in, that way I can get a better drawing. A and B. Okay, so how we would write this is we could write it as line A, B, like this. We could actually write it out line A, B. Okay, and sometimes they'll have like a lowercase letter over on the side of it, so like N over here, and then that would also be line N. Okay, so it all depends. Any of these three would be fine. You would also label it as line BA. Just reverse the letters, okay? But anytime a line goes through 2 points, you can label it based on that, all right? Okay, and then lastly, a plane. So a plane has 2 dimensions. It is represented by a shape that looks like a floor or a wall, and it extends without end. So in this case, our plane could look like this. And all that it's required is that it has 3 points, okay? So we'll put this one A, B, and C, okay? So a plane has 3 points. A line requires 2, a dot or a point requires just 1, and a plane requires 3, okay? Now these 3 points are all on the plane. We'll label this plane M, okay? So we'll label this as plane M, and you can also write it as the plane of the 3 dots that are here. So you can also write it as plane A, B, C. All right? So that's basically all you need to know for this slide, okay? Point A, line AB, line AB, or line N, depending on which one. And then you also have plane ABC or plane M, all right? You're gonna see this notation much more, so just bear with me in regards to if you don't understand right now. All right, so let's go next slide. So blank are points that lie on the same plane, and blank are points that lie on the same, blank are points that lie on the same line, and blank are points that lie on the same plane. We're gonna call this collinear. Collinear points are points that lie on the same plane. Linear, line, okay? And then coplanar are points that lie on the same plane, all right? Very simple. And then I just want to write a quick drawing. So let's say we have A, B, and C. We would say that A, B, and C are collinear. Okay. And actually, I'm going to change this one to red. Coplanar. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a plane. D, E, and F. So D, E, and F, even though they are not all on the same line, we can say that they are coplanar. Okay? All right, moving on. So here's some practice. We have this plane, which also has two lines. The line S and T is on this plane. Okay? The plane is R, right? And S and T, it lies on this plane. Now, you see how there's a dotted line over here, right, in this area, okay? That means that it is passing through the plane. So technically, if we were looking at the plane, this arrow right here is behind the plane, okay? Because it's technically, this portion is above it, so it's going through the plane. It's not on the plane. That's how they're going to notate it. Let me go ahead and erase this now. So this portion right where I was just pointing before is behind the plane, okay? So all this slide wants you to do is name 3 points. So 3 points we could say would be T, S, and V. You could have also said Q or P, okay? But we just picked 3 of them, okay? And now it says name a line. So there's 2 lines here and there's multiple ways to name them. Let's go ahead and talk about the one that is on our plane. So that would be this one right here, from S to T, okay? We can obviously label this line as line ST by writing it like this. Okay, and we can also say that it is line M. Okay, now you could have also named the other line that's here, which would be this one up here, that goes through the plane. Okay, you could have labeled that as line N or line PQ, okay, or QP, all right, either one. So I just chose to do line ST or line M, but you could have also picked the other one. All right, moving on. So name the plane. So our plane is this whole thing right here, and we are going to go ahead and name it plane R. Okay, but then again, there is another way that you can name the plane, and that's by naming 3 points that are on the plane. Let me erase some of this stuff that I have going on here. So 3 points that are on the plane could include S, P, T, or V, okay? So R is the name of our plane, and then Q, see how Q is above the plane? It's not actually in the plane. Because as I mentioned with the line N or the line PQ, P is where this line is hitting the plane, but because there's a dotted line down below, it's actually passing, it's not on the plane. It's like sticking a pencil through a folder, okay? So plane R, and then we're also going to label it as plane SVP. Okay? Now, one thing I want you guys to know, you couldn't have labeled it SPT. You have to include this V. Why? Because these three lie on a line. So there could have been multiple planes that you could be talking about, okay? So remember, the lines have to be, in order to form a plane, it needs to be 3 points, but they can't all be on the same line, okay? They have to be coplanar, but not collinear, all right? So now it says give 2 collinear points. You could just put S and P, and then give 2 coplanar points. We could put P and V. Or, yeah. All right, moving on to the next slide. Okay, another practice problem. So it asks, what is the only point that is not in plane R? So again, this is plane R, okay? This whole plane, and the only point that isn't on it, so S is on it, P is on it, T is on it, V is on it, is point Q, okay? How did we know that? Because this line N, is the only one that's not in the plane, okay? The whole line of line M is inside this plane R, okay? Even though it extends forever, so does the plane, okay? So Q is the only point that's outside the plane, so we're going to put Q. And then name another plane. So another plane that we could name would have to involve Q, because the rest of these points, if we were to name a plane with them, would only form plane R, okay? So we're going to say plane, and let's pick S, P, Q. Because if we picked V, it would only give us plane R, okay? So we picked plane S, P, Q. That works. You could have also picked P, T, Q, P, V, Q, T, V, Q. As long as the plane included this Q, you would have been good, all right? Okay, more definitions, okay? So the word here, we have segment and ray. These are very simple, okay, and we're going to go over them. So line segment AB or segment AB consists of the endpoints A and B and all points on line AB that are between A and B, okay? So let's go ahead. I'm going to zoom in here so I can get a nice picture and draw a dot for A and a dot for B, okay? Now, all a line segment is literally just connecting these two. So this is now a line segment. Now, you might be asking, what's the difference between this and a line? A line extends forever. A line segment stops. So you see how A is a point and B is a point? It does not have this arrowhead, okay? Let's be very clear. If it has the arrowhead, it is a line, okay? A line segment stops, okay? So we would label this A, B, but instead of drawing arrows on top, it's just a line connecting them, okay? Now, one way that helped me when I was remembering this back in the day was, if we zoom in here, let me change the color so you can really see it. Let's go with black. So there's no arrowhead, and that corresponds to A. No arrowhead, and that corresponds to B, okay? So you know that it has to end here and end here. So it's just gonna be a line segment, okay? Now, this will make even more sense when we talk about a ray. So a ray, or the ray AB, consists of the endpoint A and all points on line A, B, that lie on the same side of A as B. Now that sounds super complicated, but it's not, okay? So a ray is essentially a line that ends on one side. So let's go ahead and go back to our red, and it says that the endpoint A and the endpoint B, and it's ray AB, it's gonna go through B and continue on forever, okay? So it's like, think of like a ray from the sun. They obviously don't go here's our sun. These are all rays that are pointing out away from the sun, okay? Like a sun or a UV ray, or a light ray, okay? They're always pointing out. If they can't go back into the sun, okay? So, and how we write this is A, B, and guess what? It's an endpoint over A, so it's blank, and then there's an arrowhead over B because it continues on through B, okay? So the only difference here is if it was a line, you would have an arrowhead here pointing over A, which means it would continue forever. But in this case, we do not. I'm gonna take those away. All right, moving on. And definitions. So blank are two rays that lie on the same line but point in opposite directions. The most simplest of all the vocab words is called an opposite ray. Opposite rays are two rays that lie on the same line but point in opposite directions. So the opposite rays here would be ray CA and ray CB. Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote it the wrong way. It's CB and CA. Okay? Notice how even though it's pointing this way, when I write it down, I have the arrow pointing in to the right, but I have to reverse the order. So the endpoint, the C, has to be with the side that doesn't have the arrowhead, okay? Because it passes through A and continues on that side. So that's why the arrowhead is over A and not C, all right? And move on. So, some practice. What is another name for the segment EF? All right, so let's look. We've got E over here, F over here, okay? So the segment would be just this portion connecting them. The only other name for it, FE, okay? That's how we would write it. And then it says name two opposite rays. Oops. FE, name two opposite rays. So let's take a look. So let's just name a single ray. Single ray we can name as this one. We can name it JG. Now the opposite of that would be on the same line, but just in the opposite direction. So the opposite one would be JH. Okay, notice how J is coming first in both scenarios because that is our endpoint. All right, let's use two new colors. So JF and then JE is the opposite ray. Okay, so these are, you could have used this one or you could have said this one. All right. All right, so some more practice. So the intersection of two different lines is a point, okay? So we've got a line M and a line N, okay? And they intersect at A. That should be pretty simple, right? Like if you were, think about it like a road and you have another road, when they come together, there's an intersection, right? And it's just one intersection, okay? That's why it's called an intersection. It's when two lines or roads meet, okay? Now the intersection of two different planes is a line, okay? So we've got a plane going up and down, this one. And then we've also got a plane right here, okay? Now they intersect at this line, which is called Q. And this line Q is actually going to go on forever in this direction. Okay? So, what is the intersection of a plane and a line? Wow. I want you guys to think about that for a second. And the intersection of a plane and a line could be like different things. So here we have where the line is actually on the plane. So this one, it intersects everywhere. On the line. Okay? Here, in our second image, we have a line that's going to extend forever up here, but a plane that doesn't, it's not going to intersect it because the plane, like, they're never going to meet, okay? If this plane extended forever, it would still, the line would still be above it. So this one has no intersection. And then the last one, C. So this, we have a line that goes directly into the plane and then out of it, okay? Right here. So this one intersects at a point. Okay? And our last slide. So for this one, I want you guys, for the first one, is to give me another name for line D, E, and also another name for plane C. All right? So in this case, for line D, E, let's go ahead and find it. It's right here. We could actually label this a bunch of different things, okay? We could label it, since there is another point that it goes through, D, A. Okay? We could also label it A, E, because as it's a line as long as it passes through those 2 points. We could label it line R. Okay? Any of those would suffice as labeling that line in another way. Okay? And then the other one, so plane C. Remember I said planes can be a plane labeled by a letter or also 3 points. So let's go ahead and find 3 points that lie on our plane C. So I'm going to pick A, E, and F. Remember, we can't pick D because those all lie on the same line, okay? F is on our plane C, but it's also not on our line AE, okay? So that one will create a plane. So we're going to label it plane A, E, and F, okay? And then there are 4 points that are coplanar. And there are 3 points that are collinear. Okay? Our 4 points that are coplanar are F, A, E, and yep, D. Why? Because they all line on plane C. And the 3 points that are collinear, this one should be pretty easy and obvious. Okay, there's 3 points that lie on the same line, and it's these 3. D, A, and E. Okay? All right, those are all of our notes for this lesson. If you have any questions, you can email me or ask me in Canvas. So I hope you guys are good to go.